You're watching a brand new edition of Policy Watch with me, Frank Rausen Pereira. Now that the general elections are over and we have a clear winner, it's time to get down to business. Today we will focus on the social sector highlights in the BJP's Sankalp Patra. Around 44% of the Indian workforce is engaged in agriculture and allied activities. Hence, it is not surprising that the party committed on one of its highest priorities towards farmers' welfare and agricultural productivity. Accessibility and affordability of healthcare in India has been poor, and to combat that, the BJP launched the Ayushman Bharat scheme in September 2018. As part of this initiative, the government started a program to set up 1.5 lakh health and wellness centers by 2022. In its first term, the BJP government initiated a range of programs in the education space. Samagra Shiksha, Sakshar Bharat and Jan Shikshan Sanstha were some of the schemes that were launched. Education also found a prominent place in the party's manifesto in 2019. India comes up short when it comes to skilled workforce, and Skill India campaign was initiated in 2015 to increase the number of skilled workers in the country. Skill development is likely to get a big boost in Prime Minister Modi's next government. So what will the focus of the next government be on the social sector? That's what we will discuss in today's edition of Policy Watch. Joining me on the program today are Aditi Tandon, Special Correspondent of the Tribune. Sunil K. Chowdhury, Department of Political Science, DU, is also with us. And Bhanuchandar Nagarajan, former consultant, World Bank, Washington, D.C., is also with us on the program. Sunil Chowdhury, I'd like to start the program with you. Let's first try and put into perspective and try and understand what needs to be done by Modi 2.0 and his government as far as the social sector is concerned. Is it going to be a continuation of several of the reforms and the schemes that were brought up in the first term, or do you see something else?
I think many flagship programs which were initiated during the first term, whether it is related to Ujjwala scheme or it is Ayushman Bharat scheme or it is Jeevan Jyoti schemes, all these schemes are related to cylinder, Shauchalaya, electrification. All these schemes need to go ahead. I mean, there should be continuation process. I think the most important factor which the government should focus on, which Prime Minister Modi has also mentioned in his speech, it's about social security, because that's the huge area where government has to take care of, besides workers in the organized sectors, the workers in the unorganized sectors. And an important scheme which government came out was a Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Jandhan Yojana, Shram Yogi Mandhan Yojana. That scheme which basically tries to give contributory pensions to all those workers from 18 years till 60 years. So that's a very attractive scheme, but I think to make it more attractive, because that was the agenda of the left parties all across India, but they never implemented it. So this unorganized sector workers are the first whom should be given priority by the government. And this scheme is a very lucrative, very attractive scheme. But I think it needs to be revised, revived and strengthened in the sense that when we talk about this Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mandhan Yojana, the amount starts at 3,000 rupees from 60 years onwards, age onwards. And it starts from 18 years till 60 years, where you have to just make a contribution, minimal contribution, 55 rupees, then 100 rupees, then 200 rupees, and the state comes out as the co-contributor. When we see that amount to be paid at the time of pension, this amount seems to be very meager amount. We're getting 3,000 rupees at 60 years of age is a very small amount. So that this amount needs to be enhanced, because psychologically when you say that you are going to retire with 3,000 rupees, 5,000 rupees, that amount is not very lucrative, attractive. Secondly, this period, 60 years, because for the people working in the unorganized sector, I mean, 60 years period is too long for them, and mostly we see that people stop working from 50 years onwards. So this 10-year period can be reduced from 60 to 50 years. And third, to make it more attractive, I think this needs to be clubbed with the insurance schemes, because government has many insurance schemes like Pradhan Mantri Durghatna Yojana or Jeevan Jyoti Yojana. At the moment, this scheme doesn't have any insurance cover, so that if any casualty takes place, the family of that worker gets benefit out of that scheme. Lastly, I would say that the canvas of the organized workers, unorganized workers is huge. Capping those unorganized workers, bringing them to the mainstream economy is a big challenge for the government.
Sure, sure. Talking about challenges, Aditi Tandon, as far as the social sector is concerned, what's on top of your list and what needs to be done?
You see, Frank, the first big challenge of the government will be the budget presentation. As we all know, immediately we will head into one presentation of the budget. Looking at the available fiscal space with the government, we will have to go forward with the momentum that the NDA government built earlier on two very important sectors. The first was the larger ambit of social welfare, in which I count health, I also count education, and a big push that was given to the fact that every household should have a toilet. The Swachh Bharat Abhiyan is the key to the government's entire social welfare program. And if you analyze the verdict that has the astounding verdict that the country has given to the NDA for a second term yesterday, you know, it is a multiplicity of factors that have played a role. And one big factor that I examined and assessed when I was traveling through the fields, you know, you have also been to very many places, you must have also found the same things resonating, was that every household, most of the households you visited in a cluster of villages now had a gas connection. A lot of houses actually had a toilet. A lot of houses did not have available or free supply of potable or drinking water in their areas, but you know, you had a toilet unit. So when you spoke to the women, they actually told you that we don't care about the water, we can still go and fetch water from the nearby water sources, but the fact that we do have a toilet unit and there's dignity with which we can, you know, use our own spaces for all these things is a huge empowerment for us. So this push of, you know, the BJP manifesto has promised one toilet per households, and we still have a lot of distance to cover on this particular sector. I think that momentum has to continue, because this unit of toilet is not just a symbolic unit. It's not just one part of the larger Swachhata Abhiyan. It is about women's dignity. It also has a lot of impact on social crimes. We always hear of stories where, you know, girls go out in the fields and they get raped and they get assaulted and all that. So it is actually creating an impact at a social level also, not just at the health level.
And interestingly, just to add to that, you know, if you look at the BJP's manifesto, there's a whole section dedicated to women empowerment.
Exactly.
So that says a lot, doesn't it?
That says a lot. And you see, women in 13 states this time have outnumbered the male voters. This vote has gone to the NDA, to Prime Minister Modi. And why has it gone? It is for researchers to analyze. But this huge jump in 13 states, including in Bihar. Bihar traditionally, you know, never used to have women voters outnumbering men, but that has happened this time. Why have the women come out and voted in such large numbers? What have they got additional? You know, naturally there's something at play. And a lot of it is this social security, social welfare measures of the government. One is, of course, the toilet. The second very important program, which I think will continue in the next, NDA 2, is going to be the Ayushman Bharat project, which you just mentioned. It is an extremely empowering program, and you are covering 10 crore families, you are covering 50 crore people, and you are giving them a huge insurance, financial insurance per year. You know, 5 lakh is not a small amount, and we actually found evidence in the field of people using these cards, and in a lot of villages, you know, people actually told us that yes, Ayushman Bharat benefits have started to roll, so that's something that has to continue. The second pillar of Ayushman Bharat, which hasn't yet picked up so much, is the health and wellness centers. Last year, I assessed the progress of that pillar. Around 14,000 health and wellness centers had been established and they had started rolling out their services. Why are these centers important, Frank? They are important because they are going to be close to the community, in the village. So you have immediate availability of health services within the vicinity of your village,
Right.
within a few kilometers of where you actually live. And you will have screening for 5 types of cancers. You will have 12 kinds of services. So, you know, this is going to strengthen the primary health infrastructure of the country. Plus, as you go above, you have the primary covered at the wellness centers.
Absolutely.
You have the secondary and tertiary covered by the Ayushman Bharat insurance premium.
So a healthy society is a prosperous society
Yes.
at the end of the day. So that's something that we need to work towards. Banu, your thoughts on the social sector and really focus areas?
I want to just zoom out for a bit and talk about the bigger picture. So India is now the fifth largest economy. It is around $2.6 trillion. The professed goal, the Prime Minister spoke in one of his campaign speeches that we want to become a $5 trillion economy by 2024 and a $10 trillion economy by 2032. Okay. So if we have to achieve these goals, it has to be on the back of very good, high quality social capital. Social capital, if you actually like break it down, it's education, health, and social security, which the program is about. So, in fact, the focus on these three aspects has been very high during the first term, and I hope it is going to continue in the second term as well. And the benefits of the work done in the first term will be reaped in the second term. Okay, so that's why, like, I think the Prime Minister has openly said that we are going to become a $5 trillion economy. So let's take things one by one. Say, if you take social security, the other guest actually spoke eloquently about it. Things like the unemployment pension, unorganized sector pension, the Krishi Samman Nidhi, and so on and so forth. They give some basic security of income to the people so that they can go and be productive. Okay. Second, let's come to education. Education, we have made tremendous progress. Like the NSSO survey is going to come out, where we will see that the kids are usually dropping out at the age of 13. Now, actually, like, they're completing matriculation. There's hardly any dropout till standard 10, which is 15 years of age. If you take women's enrollment in rural area, it was 10% before. Now it is around 23%. So more than double. So this is for post matriculation. This is people doing studies after the 10th.
Yes.
So there's a phenomenal increase. So I'll quickly like segue into how this will help. For example, India's female labor force participation is 28%. Okay, if you take China, it is 65. Okay. So if we have to like make progress and become a $5 trillion economy by 2024 or a $10 trillion economy by 2032, this has to go up tremendously. Okay, we need our women to be more productive and more contributing. I'll come back to the third thing, which is health. If you look at health, my fellow guest talked about Ayushman Bharat, like 10 crore families giving, like, getting up to 5 lakh insurance. It's a tremendous security in itself, right? Because like 76% of the expenditure of rural families is on health. Okay.
Sure.
Now, like, that is taken off and that can be put to other uses.
Right.
So, I mean, if you look at it, like, whole segment has been covered during the first 5 years, and I think it has been professed in the BJP manifesto that they are going to continue. Just like one quick point, just take a confluence of this health and education, which is medical education. Okay. So the number of undergraduate seats has now increased to 18,000 and postgraduate to 12,000. So there's a talk of doubling that. Okay, and 75 more. Now there is one medical college for 3 parliamentary constituents, approximately 3 districts. Now they're going to like double it. Okay,
right.
At least make it at least like 2 for 3.
Sure.
And the professed goal is to start 75 such medical colleges by 2022. So
sure.
there's a gamut of operations happening in this sector.
Sure. Sunil Chaudhary, let's concentrate on the education sector now more specifically, and because you come from that background, you're a professor at the end of the day, so let's try and talk about education and what really needs to be done as far as education reforms are concerned.
I think government basically was working on new education policy. I think it will now come out in this new term that broadly covers all facets of education. But I would like to focus on 3 very important areas where education should be given priority by the new government. When we talk about, let's start from the primary education. The primary education all across India, because since we have a federal structure, but primary education in terms of placements, employment of the teachers, and the course curriculum need to be revised and strengthened in such a way that at least moral education should become part of that school education, because still we believe that besides family, the school is the most important institution where imparting of education should be inculcated among the students. Second, talk about the higher education, because we have seen that HIFA was introduced by the government, which will take care of how funding by the state to those institutions where they can actually come out with productive education should be taken care of. I believe that research and development should be added to higher education. More specifically, besides technical and medical education, the research and development should be added to the social sciences as well, because social sciences have been a very neglected area in all past years, and we have seen in the Western countries, social sciences besides technical medical education has been given priority. So research and development should be part of the social sciences particularly, so that we come out with good research, and these research should become part of policy research. As we have seen in political science, since I come from political science, we see that there are many disciplines which are very theoretical, monotonous disciplines, but they need to be more professional, vocational and result oriented disciplines, so that higher education should be linked with employment generation as well, because the students who come out from the higher education, specifically in social sciences, should be placed in some institutions where they can basically impart more skills and employability to the society as a whole.
Sure.
Third, I would say that in education, we still lack uniformity, specifically in terms of when we talk about placements. We see very many good students after completing their higher education here with their MPhil and PhD, they fail to get jobs over here, and they just go to the Western countries and contribute more to their societies, academic societies. Still there is, because education covers a huge canvas, and there is need to have one sort of Indian academic or Indian educational services where we can have equitable placements where those the meritorious students should be given equal opportunities, and the shortcut strategy should be taken care of, and merit oriented student should be promoted all throughout educations and universities.
Aditya Tandon, I'd like to bring you into the picture now. As far as a point raised by the professor, he was talking about teacher training and how that is very, very important, because at the end of the day, if you have good teachers, you'll have better students as well, and that will improve the society as a whole. The government started this National Institutes of Teachers Training program as well. So, what was the success of that? What is the success of that? And do you believe that teacher training should have a lot of emphasis?
Frank, teacher training and faculty availability in higher education institutions is the biggest challenge, according to me, of our education sector. If you look at central universities, the level of vacancies, the percentage of vacancies is anywhere between 40 to 70%. If you look at state level government colleges or any other private colleges also, good faculty is a huge challenge. So what is the government doing to create a talent of teachers? A talent pool of teachers. You said that there are institutions, but are you doing enough to generate demand in society to actually take up the teaching profession? Is the teaching profession in our country, we have a professor sitting on our side, he'll know better. Is the teaching profession in our country lucrative enough to attract the best talents? The best talent goes where? Goes into medical, goes into engineering. We are still a society that is largely driven by, medical, engineering and other kinds of degree holding systems and sectors. Any household, any usual general household, if you engage, they will tell you that we want our children to have a good degree. But these degrees are not landing the children any jobs. So as far as I see the education scenario, we've done very well on enrollments. We've managed to ensure that children don't drop out. But when we are educating such a huge force, such a huge demographic dividend we are creating, what are we doing to ensure that we actually absorb this talent pool in our society tomorrow? So there I agree with the professor when he says that we need to actually enhance the vocational capacities of our system. Our educational institutions have to be in touch with the industry. Some kind of effort is being made through the sector skill councils which fall under the skill development ministry, and you see the NDA had created a separate skills ministry which Mr. Rajiv Pratap Rudy was the first minister, you remember. Under that ministry, for the first time, sector skill councils were set up. What was the role of these councils? They would engage with the higher educational institutions to offer some kinds of memoranda of understanding, wherein skills trainings will be offered to children. In any kind of, electrical training would be offered. In even welding training courses were started. Then you have wellness courses. Wellness is a huge industry. And if you read the BJP manifesto, they are going to place a huge emphasis on these sector skill councils, and they've identified 22 champion sectors. Why? Because they want to create jobs. You see,
Sure.
in the run-up to elections, Frank, the biggest debate was unemployment.
Yeah, it was a big problem area,
So
really.
when you have these 22 champion sectors identified, which are the sectors where you actually need the workforce? The biggest workforce you need today is in automobiles and infrastructure, because this very government has pledged to increase, the length of national highways.
Right.
So you need all kinds of workforce.
Sure,
So
sure.
once that happens, education gets integrated with vocation, and you create an interesting and a talented workforce for your
Absolutely.
future.
I'll come back to skill development and job creation in just a bit. But before that, Banu, I'll go back to a point that the professor was making about, R&D. Now, research has been a big problem area really as far as India is concerned. Probably ISRO is leading the way as far as R&D is concerned, maybe to some extent DRDO. But barring that, of course, this has been a problem area. Do you believe the corporates too can play a big role as far as R&D is concerned? Because they do it outside of India.
Absolutely.
What's the issue with India?
Absolutely. I will answer it. Just a quick segue. So currently the gross enrollment ratio of India is around 24-25%. Okay, and the government is actually planned to increase it to 33%. So how are they going to plan such a massive increase in gross enrollment ratio? First is like this government, the previous government, I mean NDA 2, this one. It created Swayam, India's MOOCs, first MOOCs, massive open online courses, where the best professors actually put out their lectures, put out their course material, everything online, and kids from any part of India can actually learn from that. Not just like watching YouTube, but like really like learn, take courses, take credits. In fact, like there was a concurrent legislation by both UGC and AICTE, which said that like colleges can now offer 20% of their courses through Swayam, which is like almost like, I mean, if you take, it's probably like 1 year of 4 years of engineering, almost similar, right? So like if you take like a college in say like middle of nowhere in Jharkhand or Chhattisgarh, like where teachers were not available before, now like they have access to the best quality teachers, right? So that is something, and there was concurrent reforms in open and distance learning, so on and so forth. In fact, even within education, in fact, we talk about teacher training, right? 15 lakh untrained teachers, 15 lakh, okay, they got their diploma through Swayam. Okay, through Swayam, like teacher training was conducted and diplomas were given, and now we have 15 lakh trained teachers who are teaching at the school level. Okay, so look at the rollover effect of it. Okay, coming back to research and innovation, there were a few programs that were initiated during the last government or this government, which is like, there is something called Gyan. Gyan is basically faculty from outside, like who actually they actually engage in like high-tech teaching and research on very, very niche topics. They can come and actually spend time here in India teaching in Indian colleges.
Right.
Second is Imprint. Imprint is like basically like research collaboration within India and with foreign universities. Okay, then there is a program where big IITs and IISCs, they partner with local engineering colleges and actually do research. Okay, they promote research in this. Then there was Smart India Hackathon, which was conducted, and many problems were thrown open to the students for them to like participate and throw innovative solutions. So like many such small initiatives were taken.
Sure.
And they were scaled up to a bit. It's not small anymore, but I think like they'll become massive during the next government.
Right. Okay. Quick closing comments from all my guests now. I've got very limited time, so I'm going to ask you to be brief. Starting with you, Sunil Chaudhary, on skill development, basically because job creation has been a problem area as the world changes, as we start looking towards AI and so on and so forth. Do you believe the emphasis should be on skill development?
Yes, skill development should be given priority by the government. I think it is a continuation process, and the government has taken many steps there in the previous time. Now I think there's time to recapitalize those gains and to take those gains to different sectors of the society. But one more thing I need to mention, it is about, when we talk about social sector, that's Jal, Jungle and Jalvayu. These three important areas need to focus by the government, specifically when we talk about water. Water is a very important part of, it should be part of the government priorities in this in this era. Important point of this water is, it's not that the water should be linked with the irrigation and drinking water as well. As Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji came out with this river linkage process. I think if that project takes shape under the current government, I think that will bring about revolutionary change all across India, which may also lead to even generation of employment all across India.
Absolutely. Aditi, on job creation, really, do you believe that something needs to be done on that front?
I think job creation should be #1 priority of the government, because that's one particular sector where the government did dither and it became a huge issue. And also why? Because half of our population is below 25 years of age. That's a huge workforce which the government of the day has to address. Also, let's not forget, Frank, India is going to surpass China as the most populous country of the world by 2022. I believe, looking at the BJP manifesto, that most of the BJP social welfare programs are targeted at 2022. I think they have factored in the fact that we are, and our population is growing at a very fast pace, and we have to look at this demography. Otherwise, you know, there are going to be imbalances.
Yeah, so the demographic dividend might not end up being a dividend is what you're suggesting. Banu, close the show for us with your concluding remarks.
Yeah, so like we are actually like I mean, the transition has already started, but the next decade is going to be very drastically different from what it was before, okay? So we are already in the gig economy, right? So like people take part-time jobs, small jobs, they do like many things, so on and so forth. And we are also like entering an era of certification, okay? For example, if a startup now wants to hire a programmer, maybe they don't hire a BE computer science person, they actually like look for some certification, some from Udacity or Coursera or one of these places. So the whole job scenario has changed, and there are many jobs that are going to come which are not in existence. For example, Android programming was not in existence 10 years ago, right? So how to make our students nimble, how to make them resilient, how to like create that attitude of like learning fast is also something that the government and the policy makers need to look at.
Okay, all right. That's the expert's take really as far as what the next government should concentrate on as far as the social sector is concerned. I'd like to thank all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's it from me. See you again next time.